Oh boy.
When I wake up each day, I feel so weary. Try to face the world, but it's so dreary. But I found that special thing that makes me cheery. Time to do music theory. Music theory.
You're watching Adventures in Music Theory with your host, Dr. Robbins. Hello. I suppose if you're listening to this, it means you have survived the fourth form and analysis test. And this is, as I promised, the video to help you get ready for the final exam. So, this is going to be no new information about music being given out, just a bunch of bookkeeping and stuff like that. But since this is our last official cyber meeting, I have a few things I need to tell you all. One thing is this. You've probably gotten emails from institutional research, but please fill out the course evaluation for this class and all your classes so that we can get that information. Some of us actually do read it and take it to heart. And especially in a semester like this, where we're all learning how to do teaching in a new way and learning in a new way, it would be very interesting to get your feedback. So please fill those evaluations out. The other thing is, if you're doing the optional final project, remember that it's due no later than the end of the day this Friday, May the 8th. So let's talk about your final exam, shall we? We have a scheduled exam time for this class. Obviously, it seems not smart to use it. So I'm going to have self-scheduled exams this semester. You need to take the exam next week during exam week. And you can take it beginning any time from 8 o'clock Monday morning at 8 until Thursday afternoon beginning at 3:30. So that's when we're going to do the exams. You get to choose what time you take it next week. It just can't begin any earlier than 8 a.m. Monday, and it can't begin any later than 3:30 in the afternoon on Thursday. And here's how I'm thinking we will administer that exam. I don't want to just put it up on Moodle or Google Classroom and have it sitting there for everybody to get at. So, here's what I want to happen. When you're ready for the exam, I want you to send me an email. Let me know when you want to take it. You can send that email as soon as right now. But let me know what time you think you want to take the exam next week. Once I know what time you want to take the exam, I will email it to you. And I'll email the exam as a PDF file, and it'll have a little sound file link you can click so you can hear the music that's on the exam if you want to. Once I email that exam to you, you've got 24 hours to finish it and turn it back in. And the exam has to be to me absolutely no later than 6:30 on Thursday. That's when the final exam period would be ending. So, even if you don't elect to take the exam until 3:30 Thursday afternoon, you still have to get it back to me by 6:30 on Thursday evening. But as a general rule, if you give me enough advance notice, you can have 24 hours on the exam. I don't think you're going to need it. I would not recommend using it. I would recommend just sitting down, taking the thing in 1, 2, or 3 hour block, and then being done with it, hitting send, and sending it back to me. So, you send me an email when you want to take this thing, and once I know what time you want it, I will send you an email giving you the exam as close to that time as I can. And then you've got 24 hours to get it back to me. Make sense? Is the exam open book? Heck no. It's not open book. It's not open notes. The exam is just what's floating around in your brain after a semester of form and analysis class. That's all I expect you to need for this exam. So study well in advance and you should be fine. The exam's in 2 parts. Part 1 is short answer. I'm going to give you some things that I want you to give me short answers to. Questions like, how does a double period work? What's a cadential extension? Explain how binary form works. Show me how the 12-bar blues goes. Things like that. Things that make good short answer questions, like we've been having on the test up till now. Part 2 of the exam is analysis. And in the interest of time and sanity, mostly mine, I'm only going to put 1 musical work on the exam for analysis. There will be a complete movement on the exam. It will be a string quartet movement, by the way, I'll tell you that. So if you know every string quartet piece ever written, you've got a leg up here. But it'll be a string quartet movement, and I will ask you some questions, and I will want a complete formal analysis of it. Obviously, one question is going to be, what form is this movement? And it could be any form we've talked about. It could be ternary, it could be rounded binary, it could be simple binary, it could be a sonata form, a sonata rondo, a rondo, it could be a fugal movement, it could be a theme and variations. So you need to know all of your forms so that you can figure out which one of those forms this is. The question I'm going to ask is very long. It's what is the form of this work, and then it's going to be broken down into like 5 or 6 little subcategories. And they're going to tell you what to do if you think it's each of those forms. Like it's going to say, if you think it's a binary form, show me the A section and the B section, list the tonal centers beneath the score, blah, blah, blah. If it's a fugal movement, then it's going to say, identify the subject, identify the answer, show me the end of the exposition, show me the development section with the middle entries and the episodes, show me the closing section. Is there a counter subject in this thing? If it's a sonata form, of course, exposition, development, recap, primary, secondary, closing themes, a transition between the primary and secondary themes. You all know the drill. So I'm going to direct you about everything I want for all the possible forms. So once you've decided what form it is, look on the little list and say, okay, so he says if it's a rondo, I need to mark all of the A sections and all the B sections and the C areas and things like that, and I need to put the keys underneath and stuff like that. That's how it's going to work. Just 1 movement. So if you have questions between now and then, of course you can email them to me, but that's all the exam is. 1 page of short answers and then a full movement with some analysis questions. And in addition to asking what the form of the movement is, I might ask a few questions as well about, what's happening in measures 58 through 62, or what key are we in measure 36, or, what's going on between, the bass voice and the lowest voice, and the highest voice in these measures, stuff like that. What structural unit do measures 24 through 38 form? And you might say phrase group or period or something like that. So that's how it works. And now I answer the question that I'm sure is on every mind out there. What do you do if you find that after you're done with form and analysis, you have that moment of realizing, oh my gosh, I took basic elements of music theory, I took harmony and voice leading, I took chromatic harmony, and I took form and analysis, and now I feel lost and my life has 0 sense of purpose because I don't have any theory classes coming up that I absolutely must take. What am I going to do with myself? I feel bereft. How do I make myself feel reft again? Well, I've got the solution here. You might want to take some more music theory classes. Scoff if you must. It happens quite a lot. So, let me tell you a little about some of the theory classes you could take. You might choose to take advanced analysis, which is very much like form and analysis on steroids. We teach it every January term, and we look at very complicated pieces of music that don't necessarily hold up to standard analytical approaches, which, by the way, is how a lot of the music in the world is. So it's a really good class because it sort of equips you to figure out how to approach pieces of music that might not fall very, very handily into the, oh, that's a rounded binary form, oh, that's composite ternary form. So the advanced analysis class is really neat. We look at a lot of music from like the Baroque classic era up through the 20th century. We usually look at a complete opera in there. We look at a Beethoven string quartet. We look at some Schubert songs. We look at some Chopin pieces. Some of the pieces are short. They just are weird, but the good kind of weird that you want to learn more about. People dread the class because it has the word advanced at the beginning of it, but between you and me, it's not that awful of a class because it's in Jan term, and the workload for undergraduates consists pretty much entirely of homework. And there's not a lot of taken up graded homework. There are no tests for the class. There is no final project. There is no final exam. I just like to have you in the class in January for 4 weeks, knowing that for those 4 weeks, I own your academic soul and that you're giving this class your full attention. It's a pretty cool class. People have slipped up and said that around me when they didn't think I was listening. Another class that might interest you might be counterpoint class. We're going to be offering that next spring of y'all's junior year. So it's a class that we actually do more music writing in than most of the music theory classes. We study contrapuntal music from the Renaissance up through the 20th century, actually even 21st century now. And we go a little bit deeper into how contrapuntal music is actually constructed. In form class, we just talk about the form of a fugal movement or of an invention or something like that. In this class, we actually try our hand at writing parts of fugal movements and writing parts of inventions and stuff like that. It has the tendency to be kind of a fun class. I recommend it. It's fun. Also fun is the 20th Century Idioms class, which we're going to be offering in the spring of 2022, your senior years. We basically dig in and look at all that weird, cool-sounding music that doesn't necessarily do to analyze like you would analyze a Schubert song or a Brahms symphony or something like that. We study atonal music. We study early 20th century music like Stravinsky. We study music that uses modes. Since nobody can stop me, we spend a lot of time talking about how rhythm and meter work in rock songs and things like that. So I'd love to see any or all of you in that class. And the other class that might interest you is the Introduction to Composition and Improvisation, a class that's offered each spring that Dr. Berry teaches. And you get to write your own music in there, and a lot of times we try to have a little event where we perform the pieces the students in the class write. So all of these are useful things to take. They all might be useful to take as well, and for some of y'all, you're going to need to take them. And the reason you're going to need to take them is because depending on what degree you're getting, they may be required for the degree. For instance, the instrumental performance degrees all require an upper-level music theory class beyond the 2 years of theory we've done. For the vocal performance degree, it requires an upper-level musicology class, which can be either music history or music theory. And of course, for the composition degree, well, I own those people. But anyway, these are fun classes, and knowledge is power. And if you find yourself wanting to study more, please do. I like having company in them. You might even think about getting a cognate in music theory or music history. What's a cognate, you may ask? I know I did. Well, in the music school, we don't really have minors within the music majors. You know, you can't major in clarinet performance and then minor in music education or anything else like that. But what a cognate is it's an extra concentration in music theory and music history. So it's similar to a minor, or it's similar to the certificates we do in music business or music technology. And basically what happens is you take 2 or 3 courses beyond the 2 years of music theory you've just taken or the 2 years of music history you've just taken, and you get this cognate in theory or history, and it shows up on your transcript, and it can actually be a useful thing to have, because when you find yourself out in the cold, cruel world looking for work and stuff, you might want to go to your local college and offer to teach a course in music appreciation. And you could tell them, well, you know, I have this music history cognate, so that certainly makes me more qualified than other people. Or if you were like teaching in a high school as the orchestra director or the choir director, and they wanted to offer AP music theory, you might say, well, you know, I got a cognate in music theory in college, so you all could pay me extra to teach that class. So, you know, think about doing that. It's fun and it's useful, and knowing more about music is always better than knowing less about music, right? That's certainly what I think. And on that note, I think we're done. So let's just review what's going to happen. What the very last thing I need from you is, I need you to send me that email letting me know when you want to take the exam. I will email it to you, and within 24 hours of receiving the email, you will send it back to me. And remember, I've got to have it back no later than 6:30 next Thursday. Okay, and other than that, I have nothing else to tell you. I'll look forward to seeing y'all back here next fall, and I suppose we'll just end our class together in the best way I know how. So y'all take care of yourselves, and know I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Oh boy. When I wake up each day, I feel so weary. Try to face the world, but it's so dreary. But I found that special thing that makes me cheery. Time to do music theory.